is literally meant to transport you to the hospital. So why would you force the parents to transport the child to the hospital via ambulance when they just said they're going to take the child to the hospital in their car?
Yes.
My father got hit by a three-wheeler. No, he was on a three-wheeler, and he hit something, and he got crushed by the three-wheeler. It broke like ribs in his chest and hurt his back, and he was talking a different language. He couldn't breathe.
You only went in
He
fear.
refused the ambulance and wanted my mom to drive him to the hospital. So not the same scenario, but yeah, there's nothing wrong with driving somebody to the hospital, especially if they're not bleeding out. I mean, like not otherwise in need of care during the trip to the hospital. Yes, the child is in need of care on the trip to the hospital, but like I just said, paramedics don't really have facilities to cool a child off other than lowering the temperature in the ambulance.
Yeah.
You could turn the air conditioning on in the car. Like, it didn't seem to me like it would be impossible for the parents to get the child to the hospital in a timely fashion. It was the fact that they didn't take the child to the hospital in a timely fashion.
Yeah.
Then, I'm sure an ambulance was called to take the child from
Oh yeah.
when the police had the child. I don't know exactly how it was done, but I'm assuming the paramedics were there and looked at the child and took the child to the hospital, and not that some policeman just put the kid in a car seat in the car.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be how they did that, no. But I'm just speculating there, I admit that.
I know in my area that if somebody can safely transport you to the hospital, that they prefer that you take your own transportation versus an ambulance, because ambulances are
you might need it.
limited resources.
Yeah.
So somebody else who is unable to transport themselves might need it.
Yeah. So this isn't a story about anti-vaxxers, although that comes into it.
Yeah.
The child, as far as I know, didn't have a disease that was treatable by a vaccine. Although the child's medical records and history are private. We're not necessarily going to know unless it comes out in public record, either through the parents or the courts, what was wrong with the child. The doctor said that they thought the child might have meningitis. I don't even know if meningitis is something that can be vaccinated for. Okay, but not every strain of meningitis can be. So we also don't know what strain it was. We don't know if it's a vaccine. Let's assume for the moment that it was. That's where that comes into that. But the more interesting legal issue is, why was Arizona able to take the child away, and is that the right thing to do? I mean, I'm firmly on the side of that was the right thing to do. I agree with parental autonomy, but then you have to remember that the child is not property. The child will grow up to be an adult, and the adult is going to suffer from all the things that happened to it when it was a child. If something happened, it's quite obvious, but if someone injured the child's hand in a permanent fashion, the child will have a permanently injured hand for the rest of their life. But we're talking about the child's brain here. Don't you think that's important? Yeah, of course that's one of the most important things. That is the child. Basically, you could have no senses and still technically have an operatable brain. I believe there was a man called in a coma, like not in a coma. He was caught in a not coma, paralysis kind of thing, but was conscious for 19 years. Wasn't vegetative, he was fully conscious. He knew what was going on around him, but he didn't have the ability to move. He could see and hear, but he couldn't move, he couldn't talk. And it was when someone was, a student I believe it was practicing doing brain scans and things like that, practiced on this patient and found a fully operational brain instead of a vegetative brain. And it was like, oh my goodness, there's a human being trapped in this body. Like there is a living human being living in this brain, and they've been trapped there for 19 years. That story itself is worth mentioning on this. So, long story short, the reason they're able to do that is obviously for the welfare of the child, and I have no idea how someone couldn't think through, well, yeah, we want people to have parental autonomy, but there's a point at which you're not using your autonomy in the best interest of the child. Okay, so the MMR vaccine isn't usually until a child is older.
Well, MMR is nearly exhausted.
Oh, okay, so the M's are
But
not.
I mean, obviously I was vaccinated with that. It's not
So that's our show, everyone. As you are well aware, this is a community-supported channel, and you guys, your support is just amazing, especially today. But today was a special day, so let's acknowledge, at least today was a special day. We wouldn't go this kind of support. But other than this, your support is already also very meaningful and material to our mission here. So thank you to the following March Patreon supporters at the $50 plus level: Jonathan Doe, John Steele, Gavin Barnard, Evie, Andy, Kyle Mudrock, Vera Maintain, Michael Pierce, Terry Crisp, Richard Fournier, Spirit Bear, Jan Gray, Daniel Perez, Aspinari. I'll throw Sean McNamara and Atarik in there for your help today. Thank you very much for your support. And we'll also, the April thing will start tomorrow or so. Anybody whose pledges are remaining today, when it crosses over into tomorrow, I guess, I don't know if there's an in-between period, but Patreon will start charging your card sometime tomorrow for the support in April, and then once that's all charged, I will update these lists with the new supporter lists for the videos that drop. The crawl will still be for the March supporters since the video is produced in March. So, thank you very much for joining me. I am Leonard French, your favorite copyright attorney. This has been one heck of a birthday show. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the videos that we drop this week. Love you all. Bye.
I'm sure I had the meningitis vaccine when I was like 6 months old. I think I had it a month, a few times.
Yeah, and there's viral meningitis and bacterial. But there are vaccines for at least some of them. I know,
Sit down, son.
keep thinking I should go
The
get
buff?
mine.
The both, yeah.
You wanted hip or fly.
What does that mean?
It's mumps.
Your
Like, I
moms
don't
would
know,
be
like,
proud.
what does mumps mean? Mumps doesn't sound really weird.
I guess so.
Hope you stick around longer this time. Push me on the edge here. My crotch rocket.
This video is sponsored by Skillshare. First 500 of my viewers to use the link in the description. Let's say that you're a parent in between stepping on Legos and riding on a balance bike, you start to think about kindergarten. It's a year or two away, but all the other parents are already talking about it. Hey, where are you going to send your kid? You're one of the majority of Americans living in the metropolitan area, so this isn't a simple question. Public, private, or charter? Do you send your kids to the neighborhood school, or a magnet school, or do you move to the suburbs? The possible answers to these questions and the information needed to make a decision actually explain a lot about the problems facing U.S. cities today. So let's jump in and pick a school and discuss some of these issues. Let's break down the school options for your soon-to-be kindergarten. First, you have the neighborhood public school. No matter where you live within the attendance boundary of a public elementary school, itself located within the boundary of a public school district. Everyone pays property taxes. Your public elementary school is probably pretty close and is free to attend, as the property taxes cover the school's budget. Second, you could send your kid to a private school. These schools do not receive funding from property taxes, but often charge families tuition to attend. Sometimes private schools are affiliated with a religious organization, which can provide for some of the school's budget. Private schools can be anywhere. There may be one close to your house, or the nearest one can be quite far away. Charter schools are a third option. They receive government funding like a public school and do not charge tuition. They are not neighborhood public schools like typical public schools, however, and they are controversial for issues around accountability and exploitation by for-profit entities. We don't have time to dive into those issues in this video. Finally, if the neighborhood public school is not to your liking and the other options are too far or too expensive, you could move. It's not uncommon for people to move to be within the school attendance boundary of their choosing, or to be close to a desired private or charter school. These are the four major choices here. I've left out homeschooling, magnet schools, Hogwarts, and other uncommon options. I've talked about these schools in terms of cost and location, but someone like you also cares about school quality. Everybody wants to send their kids to school where they can receive a great education. Now, when you're trying to pick out schools based on quality, you're going to get information from a couple of sources: word of mouth and greatschools.com ratings. When thinking about kindergarten, parents will ask other parents where they send their school-aged children and if they like it there. They will supplement that research with online searches. and Great Schools is the most ubiquitous rater of schools out there. Its ratings are even integrated into real estate listing websites. They rate schools on a 1 through 10 scale, and you think to yourself that you'd at least like to send your kid to a school that's rated 7 or above. Those must be the really good schools, right? So once you figure out how much you want to pay for kindergarten, where you want your kid to go, and how much school quality matters to you, it's time to make a decision. It was a tough choice, but you decided to buy a house in the suburbs, where the schools are the highest rated. You've been renting until now, but your kid is getting older, and you'd like to have a second someday. It just makes sense to buy a house and get some more room. It's a no-brainer to buy a house in a public school district with quality schools from kindergarten through high school. This hypothetical assumes we're able to tell the best school based on our research. And this hypothetical also assumes that everyone has the same choices. If you are low income, it might not be possible to attend a private school or move to a whole new district. Your options are severely limited, essentially just your neighborhood public school or adding your name to a charter school lottery. But you and families like you move to be in good school districts, and those who can't stay. Everyone's choice is understandable given their situations, but this difference in mobility leads to segregation by income, which often compounds existing urban segregation by race and ethnicity. Segregation on its own is bad, but it's worse due to how U.S. schools are funded. Property taxes fund school districts, and school districts with high land values lead to schools with big budgets. Of course, the opposite is true too. Poor neighborhoods often have underfunded schools, though they may be eligible for state and federal subsidies. It becomes a self-reinforcing cycle. Wealthy schools attract wealthy residents and stay wealthy, while poor schools can't attract wealthy residents and stay poor. One of the real ironies in all this is that many of the schools in low to moderate income neighborhoods are actually quite good, filled with great teachers, staff, and programs. But parents look at those great schools rankings, see a low number, and move on. Standardized test scores are the data used to inform great schools ratings. But standardized test scores don't really say much about school quality. That's because teachers in schools are only one influence on how well a child does academically. Students in low-income areas may have home lives that make it difficult for them to excel on these tests. Parents may work multiple jobs, which makes it harder for them to assist on homework, for example. Without support from home, kids don't do as well on tests, even if the school is top-notch. Parents in wealthier homes often have the means to provide tutoring and lessons for their child. The school quality can be the same, but the child who gets tutored will likely have higher test scores. This is why visiting schools and meeting with teachers, parents, and administrators is more valuable than just looking at scores that rank schools on a 1 to 10 scale. So we know that schools and school districts contribute some to segregation by income. So it's probably no surprise that where the boundaries for these districts are drawn can have a major impact on a community. Homes in a good school district will be valued more than one in a poor district. One possible solution to this is to have very large school districts that encompass wealthy and poor neighborhoods. This way, school tax revenues can be spread more evenly, and there's less of a difference between schools. School district consolidation happened quite a bit after the Brown v. Board of Education Supreme Court ruling back in 1954, as a way to ensure white kids and black kids were receiving education of a similar quality in integrated schools. Recently, though, these large school districts have been under assault from a movement called school district secession. It's sort of the opposite of school district consolidation. Some people want to break away parts of large school districts to form their own smaller ones. Universally, these new districts consist of upper-class white areas, guaranteeing that schools in those districts are well funded. The proposed borders for these new districts are often gerrymandered to include all of the upper-class neighborhoods and exclude all others. Meanwhile, the poorer and more diverse areas lose that revenue and become more segregated. Proponents often argue that they just want more local control over educational policy in their area, but the result is always an unequal split that favors the wealthier residents. Since 2000, more than 200 communities have tried to secede, and nearly 50 have been successful. Large school districts without secession isn't a silver bullet for good schools over a large area. School attendance boundaries for elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools can still be drawn according to racial and economic lines, segregating schools within the district itself. Schools in these districts may not see radically different funding than schools in separate districts, but there's still a social cost to segregated schools that can lead to worse outcomes for poor and minority students anyway. Students attending schools in highly segregated areas do worse than those in integrated schools. In fact, there's no evidence that integrated schooling harms any demographic group in any age or subject area. Integrated schools can reduce prejudice among students. There's also evidence that white kids attending primarily white schools are actually worse off than white kids attending schools with more diversity. White kids in diverse schools see more robust classroom discussion, develop better critical thinking and problem-solving skills, and have overall higher academic achievement. These kind of results can be difficult to capture in coarse, one-dimensional great school stories, and they go against some of the conventional wisdom of parents looking to send their kids to a great school. For many, when they picture a good school, it's a shiny new school in an affluent suburb. There's a pervasive idea that good parents send their kids to schools in the suburbs, but the local public school down the street may offer an equally good or better education, even if it's not immediately obvious and exemplified on standardized test scores. And if more kids attended their neighborhood schools, it could reduce school segregation. So I guess what I'm saying is that cities are a product of the decisions we make. We may think that our choices only affect us or our family, but they can have profound impacts on our community as a whole. Now, there's no one right answer to where to send your kid to school, and this video doesn't even talk about all of the options. And I'm not trying to shame anyone for making one decision or another, but I think it's worth knowing that your child isn't the only one who's going to feel the impact of your decision. Okay, so did you notice the maps in this video? They're pretty good, right? I made them myself, and I learned the skills to do it over at Skillshare. I used a tutorial on 3D illustration by the folks at DKNG Studio. They helped me create isometric designs using Adobe Illustrator, and it was so much fun to do. Skillshare also has over 25,000 classes in design, business, technology, and more, so if 3D illustration isn't your thing, you can still find something to learn from. Premium membership gives you unlimited access to high-quality classes on must-know topics, so you can improve your skills, unlock new opportunities, and do the work you love. Join the millions of students learning on Skillshare today with a special offer just for my viewers. Get 2 months of Skillshare for free. To sign up, visit the link in the description. The first 500 people get 2 months of unlimited access for free. Act now for the special offer and start learning today.
Dude, Dwayne, man, how's the hot dog business?
Murphy's Law says that anything that can go wrong will eventually go wrong, and it seems that the game industry has its own new law. If it can go Epic exclusive, it will go Epic exclusive. People were preparing for the news before it was even officially announced, but indeed, it does turn out that Borderlands 3, a long-awaited, highly anticipated game from Gearbox Software, will be exclusive to the Epic Store for 6 months. Now, if you can believe it, if you can summon up the imagination to believe it, gamers are upset, mostly just in general, but also specifically upset about Borderlands 3's Epic exclusivity, just like they were upset about the Outer Worlds' exclusivity and Metro's exclusivity. Epic is going on a spending spree. Now, when folks in the game community are upset, one of their favourite things to do is review bomb. It's pretty hard to do for Borderlands 3 since it's not out, and the Epic Store certainly doesn't have user reviews, so they've taken to the previous games, the good games, and review bombed the hell out of those. The reviews being left, of course, complain about the Epic Store exclusivity for Borderlands 3. Here's a nice bit of artwork someone made. Whenever I talk about review bombing on thejimposition.com, I have a running joke where in any review bomb situation, someone will call something a slap in the face, so we have that too. Excellent work. People are working out their anger and their frustration, but I don't think it's going to change any minds, especially when I think collectively we probably don't have enough money to outbid Epic, even if we all club together. And that's what it comes down to, money. Plain and simple. And that's something I want to talk about right now while I have your attention, while I have you. As I've explained before, I appreciate how angry people are at Epic getting all the exclusivity, if only for the fact that the Epic Game Store is undercooked. It's missing basic features. The Jimporium.com, my beloved merchandise website, has a shopping cart. I've got a shopping cart. The Epic Game Store has spent months without a shopping cart. That's nonsense. The roadmap of content it has rolling out for the Epic Game Store contains many features that should have been there already. Bargain basement, bottom level features. Right now it offers a shitty service compared to Steam, but game companies don't care about that. Game companies don't care about your enjoyment, your convenience. not when there's money on the line. At this time, I think it's well worth remembering a lesson that has been taught time and time and time again. Game companies aren't your friends. They don't respond to your feelings being hurt. They don't respond to you feeling kicked out, excluded, indeed slapped in the face. They don't give a shit about you. They don't give a fuck about you. And I'm not saying that to insult you. They should give a fuck about it. In an ideal world, game companies, corporations in general, would give a shit about the customers. But they don't view you as customers, they view you as consumers. Your job is to sit down, shut up, and shovel all of their content into your face. People have said that what Epic is doing isn't competition. People who even believe in the free market have said that, oh, well, what Epic is doing isn't competition. And on some level, I do agree with you, it's aggression, but it doesn't offer true competition. It doesn't offer customers a better service. But there's that phrase, don't hate the player, hate the game. Now, when it comes to this industry, the AAA industry, I think you can hate the player and the game. The players in this case being companies like Epic and companies like Gearbox, who have gone over there, you know, 2K Games as well being involved, who have taken the deal, taken the money. And I am more concerned with these big companies that don't really need it. When it comes to indie developers, I understand the Epic deal being a lot more tantalizing. You know, I've already gone on record as saying, because it's true, that the Epic Store blatantly offers a better deal. There's more visibility over there, and they get fucking money and a really good revenue split for it. But that is besides the point. The point being that you can hate the players, but look at the playing fields that they're operating in. It might not be true competition in your eyes, but it's competition that's more than allowed in this rampant, unchecked capitalistic economic system we have. Valve enjoyed a stranglehold on PC digital distribution, and that same system that Valve benefited from is being used by Epic now to throw its money around and essentially buy its way to the top of the food chain. And if you've got a problem with that, it's not enough to just get mad at Epic and to just get mad at a game like Borderlands 3. By all means, be mad at those. I'm not telling you you can't be. But I just think it would benefit everyone to examine the fact that Epic can do this in the first place. That all it takes is having enough money banked away already to seriously threaten the competition. Now, many of us have said for many years that Valve needs good competition. It's why I welcomed the emergence of the Epic Store in the first place. But something struck me when I got into a discussion with a friend of mine about this, and they said, like, a lot of people want competition, but they don't want that competition to come from Tencent, a company that has a sizable stake in Epic Games. They don't want Tencent involved. They don't want Epic to be the ones holding the keys to the gates of PC digital distribution. And I responded by saying, unfortunately, in the economic system we have, it takes a company like Epic, it takes the backing of a company like Tencent to provide that competition. If simply making a good service is all it took to truly compete with something on the scale of Steam, then, I don't know, good old games would be the #1 launcher of choice across the globe. Now, when it comes to true long-term competition, I do still believe that service is above all crucial, and that people do tend to gravitate to whatever's the most convenient way to get their content. But in order to get eyes on that service, Epic's done almost, and listen to me when I say this, within this economic system, within a system of unchecked capitalism that's gone on as far as it has, Epic is doing the objectively, the free from emotion, the objectively correct thing. But that system is incorrect. That needs severe course correction. There shouldn't be single individuals sitting on billions of dollars and doing fuck all with it for a start. Even as someone who has said that Epic's deal is superior, the fact that Epic hasn't stopped buying exclusives is alarming. When it was mostly indie titles, I could understand it a lot more, because when I've criticised Steam, I've often focused on the indies that get buried by the shit that goes up there. Metro was big and handled poorly, The Outer Worlds is where I realised that Epic's basically winning now, and Borderlands 3 just put some stank on that realisation. And it has reached a point where, as I said in a previous Jimquisition, it's aggressive, but it's not competitive. At least in the eyes of normal people. But again, what they're doing is allowed. There's nothing stopping them doing it. In the eyes of quadripleapitalism, this is competition. This is what it looks like. This is what it takes to compete. It takes being that fucking ruthless. In order to be competitive, you need to be so ruthless that you are not actually competing. You're doing everything you can to crush, destroy, and discard the competition. You don't want to really compete, you just want to kill. Because at the end of the day, does Epic really want competition? Does any major company want actual competition? No, they would love a real monopoly, but a de facto one is the best they can do, where there's technically choice, but there's only one real game in town. The always edifying Casey Explosion had a great thread about this on Twitter, where they pointed out that Epic Games basically wants to supplant Steam's de facto monopoly and replace it with its own, putting us in basically the exact same position we've been in with Steam, except maybe worse, because if Epic were to fulfill its end game, if any company were to fulfill its end game when it comes to services, what happens to the shit we have on the service that just got tanked? Companies in any industry want strangleholds of the market, and a stranglehold of the market is simply not good for us, the customers. Competition is good. Real competition is great, because it's the only thing that many companies respond to in order to improve their products. We've seen with broadband, when companies have fiefdoms and get to call the shots when they have a chokehold, they don't give a shit about the quality of your service. There are really two major things that companies respond to: competition and regulation. Now, I know many of you watching this will balk at the idea of companies being regulated for almost any reason, but at the same time, many of them still want Epic to not do what it's doing. The trouble is, Epic's a company. Tencent is a company. They're not going to stop doing what is working for them just because it might be the right thing to do. What you need are more checks and balances in place so that a company can't just roll up with a ton of money, buy everything that's on offer, and starve the other services out of business. And I hope what I'm suggesting here doesn't come across as ghastly to those of you who have a problem with the Epic's business model right now, because you're simply not going to be able to moralize a corporation into doing something nicer. Ultimately, review bombing Borderlands 2 or something can provide catharsis for individuals. It can give them a sense of having done something. But Borderlands 2, the Outer Worlds, Metro Exodus, they're the trees, not the forest. Fact of the matter is, in this market, Epic is free to do this. And as many people in the game buying public are learning right now, that's not great for you.
Today I'd like to follow up on a CBC News piece that was done involving Jessa Jones, her data recovery company iPad Rehab, Apple Community Support Forums, Apple.com, and how Apple addresses data recovery and what it is they tell consumers. Long story short, if you don't have time to watch that 9-minute CBC News clip, which I highly recommend that you do, or you simply don't want to click off of this handsome face, that's single by the way, just saying, then let me recap for you as quickly as I can. On Apple's community support forums, they will tell you that data recovery is impossible. Even if you tell them that I found a company that does do it, they will tell you that that company must be scamming you out of your money if they say that they can do data recovery, when somebody posts to showcase that not only is this untrue, but posts proof and says, yes, this is truly doable, those posts are repeatedly removed and deleted, and accounts are banned. If someone simply posts anything helpful, such as telling you exactly how your device failed, with the scientific, proper explanation that can be proven objectively with a microscope to be correct and not just something someone made up, if somebody just posts the truth of how a device failed, their post will be edited, and if they keep it up posting the truth, their post will be deleted. Now, the news here is that this is wrong. That if somebody is saying, hey, I would like to know how to get my data recovered, and they go to apple.com and they click on the support link at apple.com and they ask about it, it's one thing to say, we don't know how to do it, we don't know who can do it, we are not saying anything about any company who claims to do this, we give no opinion. The issue is when they say that nobody can do it, and if somebody says they can do it, they are taking your money and they are a scam. That is what is aggravating. That is what the story is about. And again, I highly suggest you watch it. As much as you'd like to focus on my handsome face, which again, you just happens to be single, I highly suggest that you watch that piece. It's very well done. Today what I'd like to do is I'd like to respond to some of the criticism of that piece that's been received, because some of that criticism is criticism that many normal people who simply may just not have all the information, who may want to have all the information, may have as well. Many people are skeptical of the news nowadays because most news comes with a narrative. I understand that most news comes with a narrative, and I understand your general skepticism to most reporting and most major news outlets. I get it. So let's dig through some of this stuff together. One of the first criticisms that I read was available on Apple Insider, and seems to have completely missed the point. This criticism is criticizing something that was never stated in the CBC News piece, and was never stated by Jesse. This individual is responding as if what we were saying was not, hey, we don't like when you imply that we're scam artists and that something that we do every single day in live stream is impossible to people who don't know any better, who now have no means to get their information. No, it's not that that's what's pissing us off. What's pissing us off is that you don't offer iPhone data recovery live in every Apple store, which is clearly untrue. To give you a bit of an idea here, let's just read some of this Apple Insider article. Even after contacting Apple Insider, the CBC lacks context. Shortly after the last CBC News piece about Apple service, they reached out to Apple Insider to discuss the matter. We did talk about it with them, and we know that they read our previous editorial on it. The TLDR of this is that he states that CBC doesn't really seem interested in figuring out what sets us apart, Jessa and I, from Genius Bar staff at a retail location. He brings up the point that in the last 5 years, Apple sold 1.36 billion devices. He brings up how many devices there are. He brings up the fact that it is much easier to do board swaps at a store than any sort of board repair. And he says that he's making the point that it's easier on a mass level to simply do board swaps rather than board repairs. And he says that as an exercise for the reader, hang out at an Apple store on any given Saturday at the Genius Bar evaluation table and see how many customers demand instant repair, head of the queue privileges because they have a deadline, or the data is stuck in it and it must come out for work. His criticism is that CBC seems incapable or unwilling to do this, and also seems to lack any consideration of the reality of the scale of Apple's repair effort, which entirely misses the point. He is responding to a criticism that Jessa and CBC have not issued. We are not asking them to do board-level repairs in the store. Nor is anything in that CBC News piece about the fact that Apple should offer data recovery themselves in the store. What's being done here is a sleight of hand, a straw man. That entire section of this article, of this execrable article, is responding to a criticism that was not made. And if you even want to go back to the last CBC News piece, where I noticed there was a bent pin and a connector, that is not board-level repair. That does not require a microscope. That does not require high knowledge. It simply requires that you listen to your mom when she tells you, eat your carrots, it's good for your eyes, so that even when you're 30 years old like Lewis, you'll be able to see a bent pin that the Apple Store can't, and maybe bend it back with tweezers, or recommend a cable replacement rather than $2,000 replacing the entire machine. And maybe, just maybe, if you eat your vegetables and your carrots and eat your salad, you'll be able to tell the difference between a liquid damage indicator that's gone off due to humidity and a liquid damage indicator that's gone off due to widespread corrosion on the entire board. Which, by the way, there was no corrosion on that board. Everybody who likes to talk about all that liquid damage, my eyes tell me no corrosion on that board. But I digress. Aside from that, this has no place in this article. He is making a point. Apple is too busy to offer board-level repairs in the store. And hey, I may even agree with you on that point. But that's not what we're arguing. We're arguing that we do not wish to be called scammers. We do not wish for factually incorrect information to continue to be posted, and if someone attempts to correct that factually incorrect information without advertising their business, stop banning them for posting factually correct information that is demonstrably supported by anybody with a basic internet connection who can watch a live stream video of Jessa repairing a board. Anybody with an internet connection, even at 144p, can head over to YouTube and watch Jessa recover phones that have been in the ocean, phones that have been in the toilet, phones that have been smashed, phones that have been part of a murder covered in blood that she gets the data from on live stream and then calls the customer. There has been a 3-year history of any time somebody makes a post like this in a forum correcting misinformation being removed. That is what is bothering us. It's okay, we don't mind being unauthorized, we don't mind the fact that we don't have their blessing. That's fine. All we are asking, stop implying that we are scanners when we have demonstrably proven that what you are saying is impossible is possible. And when we point it out, stop banning us and deleting us. Now the next criticism is, hey, isn't that disingenuous that you're making it sound like this is something that Apple has anything to do with? I mean, it's just on Apple.com. It's just if you go to the support forum that's linked to on their website when you click support that you get this information. But that's not Apple saying it themselves. It's not like this forum is moderated by Apple. It's not like it's all volunteers, right? No. Not only are there Apple community support moderators, not only are those moderators employed by Apple, some of which employed for 10 years, but these individuals make a salary that even Bernie Sanders would be happy with. My Discord moderators do a better job of keeping my Discord from having misinformation than that. And they get paid nothing. They're probably going to ask for a raise after seeing this video. They get paid zero. Biernov, I've done nothing but buy him a microscope and a multimeter, and he has been helping people on that Discord for almost a year. People have been deleting misinformation and correcting information and been open to being corrected on misinformation, and they don't make $95,000 a year. There are several people that you can verify work for Apple that have this specific job of community manager, that are members of this forum, that are making a six-figure income, that cannot be asked to look at a YouTube link to prove that data recovery is possible. And you wonder why we're mad! At what point am I allowed to give a corporation or a human being moral agency? At what point am I allowed to have standards for the $95,000 a year employee that are at the very least equal to the standards that I have for my unpaid Discord moderators, for a third-party Discord that is not even linked to on my company website? These are the forums that are linked to when you go to Apple.com and click support, the support page for the $1 trillion company. And they have lower standards for truth-seeking than my unpaid Discord moderators that are reading this shit in their underwear. People post on my forum every now and then, and they'll say, hey, Duke may say, or Dos Informaticos may say, listen, I know Lewis may do this way, but here's a better way to do it. I don't go there and go, I don't like this, delete. I don't like this, delete. I have higher standards for my own forum than they do for theirs. At what point am I allowed to expect somebody to do their job? At what salary am I allowed to say, do your job? Bernie Sanders may say that starts at around $15 an hour. I would say, conservatively, that at $95,000 a year, I can expect that over a 3-year time period, you check a fucking web link to see if the information that you're claiming is bullshit is actually bullshit. And I think you failed at it. And I think it is totally okay for the CBC to call that out. The next piece of criticism that I see is repair versus recovery. I've seen quite a few people mention, that's not data recovery. See, what she did is she fixed the phone, and then after she fixed the phone, she got it. That is not data recovery. You didn't recover the data, you just got the phone to work again. What? Oh, yeah, like Steve doesn't do data recovery on hard drives. He doesn't do that at all. What he does is he opens the drive, and then he messes with the firmware, and then he changes the heads, and then he adjusts the preamp, and then he does a platter swap, and then he plugs it in, and then it shows up in Windows, and you got, oh look, there's data there. Really? Really? That's how low you're willing to go. That's how pedantic you're willing to become to allow yourself to continue riding Tim Cook's cock. That is how much you are willing to stretch logic, philosophy, and reason to get to the point where you can say that taking a phone that is dead, that somebody else's they cannot get the data from, to work to the point where you can get the data out of it, put it on a USB stick, and give it to the customer. That's not fucking data recovery. This is nonsense. You know it's nonsense. I didn't recover the phone. I just replaced a bunch of chips and powered it up with something, and then I got the data off of it. I didn't recover data from a hard drive. I just did a platter swap and head swap and firmware swap, and then I plugged it in and I got the data. I don't masturbate. I've never masturbated because I've been told that it can make you go blind. I don't masturbate. I just lie down at home, open up my computer, double-click an MP4 file. 2 naked people show up on my screen. And maybe I touch myself. And maybe after 20 to 30 minutes, some stuff pops out. But I don't masturbate! Come on. No, we're not fucking telepathically reading the NAND. We are getting the phone to power on again just enough so that you can type in a passcode and then extract the data. Which is, to most people, data recovery. Before you didn't have your data, now you do. That's data recovery. Maybe all I had to do was swim to the bottom of the ocean and then pick up the phone and then power it on again. You weren't able to swim that far down. Still data recovery. I don't care if it's not your definition of data recovery. Before you didn't have your data. Now you do. You paid for data. I gave you data. Data recovery. What bothers me above all else is the gaslighting. The idea that, oh yeah, I have no idea.
I thought we'd get chased by the cops. I prefer your plan.
I mean, I don't get it. What? Like,
TJ, you're insane. I love you.
You're just angry at Apple News. Even though your video ratio is something like 30-1, educational to aggravated at something Apple did. You just make this stuff up because it's convenient for you. No, we read articles like this where they defend individuals that say that if you give money to somebody like myself or Jessa, you might as well throw it away. That we are lying, that we are scamming people by offering these services. And then you say out the side of your fucking mouth, non-Apple retail repair shops serve an important purpose. Or they say things like, board swaps at retail locations are far quicker for the company, require less skilled workers at retail, which can be paid less than a roster. So you're willing to say that we have a place, and that we have skills. But you will defend the people that say that if they give us money, they might as well be burning it or throwing it away. And you wonder why people in our industry are fucking mad at you. Even after speaking for an hour to Alex at CBC, that the CBC's sample of one service contact is hardly due diligence, when he was told by the individual at CBC that did the report that they had numerous sources. You wonder when you say things like that, this is just a volunteer moderate form, it has nothing, I know it's on Apple.com, but it has nothing to do with them, really. And then we find out, oh yeah, the moderators that are leading the posts that are saying we're not a scam are paid $90,000 a year by the company. You wonder why people who do this for a living, who have to deal with customers, who every day walk in the door thinking we're a scam because of shit they read on the internet on Apple.com or heard at the Genius Bar, are mad at you. I wonder how that happened. Crazy thing. Just fell out of the sky. We're just mad. We weren't on our pills that day. At what point is it justifiable that I become angry at somebody trying to shove a spiked dildo up the ass of the credibility of our industry? At what point? It's one thing, 10 years, here's the thing, 10.5 years ago, when I was wearing my basketball shorts because I didn't have money for anything nicer, I didn't have a store, I didn't have a business license, I didn't have the experience, I didn't have the reviews, and I didn't have the video showing that I knew what I was doing. If somebody said, yeah, giving money to that person, you might as well just burn it. You might as well just throw it away. If they say they can fix that board, if that shady person says they can fix that board, they're lying. Fine. I'm not happy with it, but I understand and respect why somebody would think that. But if after thousands of videos, over 300 of which are live streams, showing you that what they said is impossible is possible, but if after getting hundreds of Yelp reviews, thousands of Google reviews, thousands of customer testimonials, thousands of videos, 12 employees, a business license that after 7 years has had 0 complaints filed against it. Look it up at the New York City Department of Consumer Affairs. 12 employees, a store with employees, and worldwide recognition for being the best in our field, to the point where I've had students from over 10 different countries pay thousands of dollars to come here just to learn how to do what we do. If at this point I still cannot question the narrative that you would better be off burning your money than giving it to us to service customers that you know damn well you don't want to service, at what point am I allowed to be angry? When I'm 40? When I'm 60? When I've serviced 1 million customers? When I have 2 million reviews? When I have 30 million YouTube subscribers? Tell me at what point I am allowed to be angry at being called a scam artist. Tell me at what point I am allowed to be angry at posts being deleted that correct individuals that say that we are scammers. At what point is it justified? At what point would you consider it personally okay for me to preserve my livelihood dignity? At what point am I allowed to be agitated at Apple using the power of the government and customs and intellectual property and trademark laws to just shove a big spiked dildo up the ass of anybody that wants to know how to replace a backlight fuse, how to replace a battery, or how to fix their own shit when you say that you don't want to? Fuck you.
Jizzy, what's going on? Hey, I'm sorry. Outrider. Come on, take a seat. Get out and grab a punch.
Start streaming. This is not what I wanted to do today. I've got a lot of work. The CBC, the National, did the article last night, and it's fantastic. I love how they captured the side of the story that we rarely get to see, of the customers actually getting their data back. It was such a great story that really showed the human side of repair. And I was surprised. I was really surprised this morning to click over for the first time in a long time back to the good old Apple Support Community Forum, where I thought there would be a difference. I thought there would be a change over there. And there's not. They're still deleting replies that say, hey, yeah, you can get your data back from your water-damaged iPhone. They're still denying that, and I wanted to walk you through what my experience of that was today. So let's take a look here. This is this is where you would go if you were asking a question. If you Google something like damaged iPhone or need pictures, it's going to take you to the manufacturer support forum, which is right here at discussions.apple.com. This is the Apple Support Community Forum. This appears to be the main place, the manufacturer's forum. They have the best information about the device that they make. Now, this forum is managed by Apple, and they have the authority to decide what can stay on the forum, what gets deleted. They moderate the forum, but it's largely the posts are all from users. So let's take a look. This morning, I responded to this post. This really jumped out at me this morning. I wanted to see, is everything different over here now? So this is Rashid asking about a water-damaged iPhone. So water-damaged iPhone, one of the most recoverable data recovery problems there is. So Rashid needs to know that if they want to, they could probably find a microsolder with some experience that could get those memories back. What is the answer? The answer, this is the only thing that was on there this morning. The only thing that's on there is Michael Black. Here's Michael. Now, Michael has been around the forum for a while because he has amassed 45,249 points. Now, you get a point when somebody says, hey, you know, this is helpful advice. So you gotta be on here a lot to get all those points and get to level 8. It appears that Michael is an expert on Apple products. So what does Michael have to say? This is today, April 1st, 11:37 a.m. If you did not have backups in either iCloud or iTunes beforehand, then your data is gone. There is no data recovery from a dead device. And this is marked helpful. So that means that somebody has said, yeah, that helped me. This is great advice. I have no options. I'm out of luck. I can stop wasting my time right now. And that's what's really unfortunate, is this is not the end of the line. Rashid needs to know that there are other options. So I came along and I posted a typical post that said, do you still have that phone? If it's water damaged, find somebody who can fix it and get those memories back. Get that phone to boot again, and you'll be able to have access to those pictures. So I said that, and I can't show you that right now because this has been deleted. So let me show you what happens even right now. As it is right now, if I click, oh, there's more to the conversation. Let's read all the replies. Let's see, read all the replies. I've got a level 10 guy who says, if the old phone doesn't work, you cannot recover anything. Maybe you can fish something out of a backup. And then we've got some people that are posting about the CBC article. And then here's what Michael Black has to say about that. Really? With a non-functional phone, did she sell her secrets to the FBI at Scotland Yard? And then he claims that since any phone with a secure enclave and a screen lock passcode is impossible, blah, 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 blah. And then this is what I said to him, which is, what makes you think that breaking encryption is the only path to data? A dead phone is a piece of electronics, and I let him know that I'm suggesting not that we crack encryption, but that we just fix the phone. 95% of common water damage is absolutely repairable for data recovery. And so he responds, and this is where, you know, let's get in a conversation. Let's teach Michael that he's giving the wrong information here. So he's letting us know what he thinks, which is that a iPhone with secure enclave, it's not as simple as getting your device to boot. He's saying that if any detected hardware does not match the original hardware ID, the device will not boot. That's not true. So now here is the missing spot. This is the missing spot right here, which is where I made my reply that said, hey, you know, that's actually not true. So let me show you what happens when I reply. So here we are over at an email that I get when Apple deletes my stuff. So they tell me, yep, you replied to because if any detected hardware does not match, the device will not boot. And I replied to that. And let's see where let's go to inbox. We're going to go to the place where they show me what they delete. Let's see. They've deleted a couple. Yeah, here we go. So this is what I wrote. If any detected hardware does not match. That's not true. So there's only 3 chips on the board that actually have to be there with their unique ID. They've got to give that code. So there's only 3. Most of the board is not those 3. And those 3 are really protected from water, so they don't tend to be the spots that fail with water damage. And then I kind of, suggested, hey, this should seem reasonable to you, because if you just put another screen on the phone that has a different home button, that's got a different chip, the phone still moves. So I said, I think you've just exaggerated a nugget of truth, which is that an iPhone will not boot if you change the CPU, the NAND, or the EEPROM, but that's it, those 3. Every other chip can be replaced. And I suggested, look at the thousands of people fixing audio IC TriStar charging problems every day. And then I said, I think it's reckless and damaging to people. You continue to spout the misinformation that dead iPhones can't be brought back to life after water damage. Please stop, you're hurting people. Well, that's just totally true. And what I got from that was my response, is we've removed your post. So Apple deleted that. We've removed your post because it contained questionable advice. So knock that off. And, at the time, like if you click, I think you can click around here and see where that is. I believe that they have since deleted that whole thread. At least that's what I checked. Yeah, let's see. Let's see. Go to the discussion. So let's go to the discussion on that thread. Access denied. So right now, if you try to go to this thread at all, the entire thing has just been deleted. So whenever there's any of this sort of, a post gets flagged as so people are getting cranky over there, the independent repair people are trying to suggest that you can recover data and fix stuff, then Apple hits the delete key and just wipes that thread out. That's what's really, really not cool. So there's the censorship of only allowing the answers to stay that say things like you can't recover it, helpful. And then there is the deletion of responses that are perfectly reasonable within the terms of use. There's no violation there to say, hey, you're given misinformation and here's why. There's no link, nothing. No reason to delete that. And then they delete that, and then eventually they'll just delete problem threads like that entirely to shut the entire conversation down. And so in between saying, you know what, this is really driving me crazy, I can't believe that they're still deleting stuff right after, the very next day, after a national news piece exposed Apple for not letting people come to understand that, yes, you can fix phones. Yes, you can get data back from water-damaged phones. They're still allowing these things to be deleted. And this isn't just the users. This is Apple, someone who works for Apple with a paycheck that says from Apple.com. They're hitting the delete key and just shutting this stuff down. It's total BS, if you ask me. So here's my other example. I look to see, is this systemic, or maybe that's just this one thing. So this is recent. This was a few seconds before I hit start streaming. This post is probably still there. So this is, if you just look again, let's take a look. This was from Truly Unruly, a water-damaged phone. This was posted recently, just a little bit ago. My daughter's iPhone 5C dropped in the toilet, very recoverable. We left it rise. Can we get back her photos? Answer: only if she backed them up with iCloud. So basically, no. If you didn't back it up, you're out of luck. If they backed it up, they wouldn't be asking. And then here's my answer, which is most likely yes. Water damage on the logic board is usually repairable enough to get the phone to boot. To enter the passcode to take a native backup. So I'm trying to be clear that no one's suggesting that anybody's doing any kind of hacking of encryption, that this is just getting the phone fixed enough to get your photos off of it. Find somebody experienced with logic board repair, because you don't want to just take it to guy with a soldering iron down the street. Somebody experienced that can recognize those patterns and know where does the water go in the 5C, looking under chestnut, know where caps go bad. And that you'll likely want to replace the phone for long-term use, so that they understand, this is data recovery, and it's not something that we want to put a lot of effort into fixing corroded boards for long-term use. Perfectly fine answer! There is nothing wrong with that! And if let's go ahead and just hit refresh on this page. Let's just hit refresh so you can see it as it is right now at this moment in time. Maybe I'll be surprised. Let's see. All right, refresh. Boom. Look at that. My answer is deleted. And the only thing that's left is, oh, she backed it up by level 6 with 9,000. I mean, that implies this expertise. Now, who are you going to believe? You're at the manufacturer's website, the people that made the phone. A person on there with appears to be Apple with 9,000 points of expertise says, nope, you got to back it up. You didn't back it up. You're SOL, bro. That is not true. And that there was a perfectly reasonable answer that they just simply deleted. So let's look back and see what reason. What did they possibly say to you know, this was 24 minutes ago. I got an email. Hello, thanks for participating, but not really. We've removed your post, water damage phone, from the Apple support community because it contained questionable advice. The only thing I said is you should look around because a lot of people can fix that and get your memories back. Your photos, you can get them back. No, can't say that. Questionable advice to suggest that it might be temporarily repairable to get just insane. So we've, you know, and here just to be sure, this is the post that they just deleted just now. This is after having a spotlight shining on this forum just last night from the amazing guys at CBC The National who did this incredible piece that showed us fixing these phones. You know, I just cannot believe that this kind of misinformation is allowed to just, you know, to just be out there. Let's go back and see what's going on at the forum right now. Let's see what happens if we answer one in real time. Let's see how long does it take to actually get something delivered. Yeah, so here's this. Let's just try that same one again because I think that the first one from today is deleted off this one. Let's see, in real time, water damage phone. Here we go, so this is the 5C. Only if she backed up her phone. Let's reply. Let's answer it and say, let's say, looks like let's take responsibility. Looks like I may have accidentally deleted my post or not hit submit. Sorry if this is a repeat. What should we say? But yes, a wet iPhone. Let's try to guess. What could they possibly not like about this? A wet iPhone 5C can often be recoverable for data. Then what can we say to be as bland and mild and least offensive? Can often be recoverable for data. Find someone who specializes in iPhone logic board repair, who can troubleshoot the underlying problems to get the phone to turn on again long enough to, let's be clear, enter the passcode and let's just say make an iTunes backup. You're gonna be all pro Apple.
So
enter
fucking
passcode,
welcome,
make an
man.
iTunes backup.
What you know about my
Let's
family?
see. Post.
We need to see what you're made of.
There we go. So
What it
now
look like I'm made of?
we
Pudding?
have on the forum water damage phone. Let's see how long. It's 1:53 right now. Let's see how long does it take for this to get deleted. Let's see. Let's see if it's
Here's the deal. This is
instant
all about speed
or
and commitment.
if
You got
it's,
GPS in the cab.
you know, has
Get
to
to each set of
take a
map
while or
coordinates
what?
as quick as you can. Make it
so
to all the
it's
coordinates,
there
then get the truck back here,
even
lose the truck,
1
and you
minute
fail.
later. Let's
What's
go.
the GPS?
Let's see if we can check in
Second,
on
fail what?
chat.
And third, who the fuck are you?
Sorry.
Let's see.
Need to know basis only. Oh, one more thing. This baby's
YouTube
got
chat,
four-wheel
where
steering
are
instead
you?
of a handbrake. Good luck.
Let's see. That forum is large-scale Stockholm Syndrome. Yes, it is. Exactly. I'm happy.